Chapter 19 of the Pathfinder. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. This recording is by Mark Smith of Simpsonville, South Carolina. The Pathfinder, by James Fenimore Cooper. Chapter 19. Thus was this place a happy rural seat of various view. Attributed to Milton. Mabel was in waiting on the beach, and the canoe was soon launched. Pathfinder carried the party out through the surf in the same skillful manner that he had brought it in; and though Mabel's color heightened with excitement, and her heart seemed often ready to leap out of her mouth again, they reached the side of the Scud without having received even a drop of spray. Ontario is like a quick-tempered man, sudden to be angered, and as soon appeased. The sea had already fallen, and though the breakers bounded the shore, far as the eye could reach, it was merely in lines of brightness, that appeared and vanished like the returning waves produced by a stone which had been dropped into a pool. The cable of the Scud was scarcely seen above the water, and Jasper had already hoisted his sails, in readiness to depart as soon as the expected breeze from the shore should fill his canvas. It was just sunset as the cutter's mainsail flapped and its stern began to sever the water. The air was light and southerly, and the head of the vessel was kept looking up along the south shore, it being the intention to get to the eastward again as fast as possible. The night that succeeded was quiet, and the rest of those who slept deep and tranquil. Some difficulty occurred concerning the command of the vessel, but the matter had been finally settled by an amicable compromise. As the distrust of Jasper was far from being appeased, Cap retained a supervisory power, while the young man was allowed to work the craft, subject at all times to the control and interference of the old seaman. To this Jasper consented, in preference to exposing Mabel any longer to the dangers of their present situation; for, now that the violence of the elements had ceased, he well knew that the Montcalm would be in search of them. He had the discretion, however, not to reveal his apprehensions on this head, for it happened that the very means he deemed the best to escape the enemy were those which were most likely to awaken new suspicions of his honesty in the minds of those who held the power to defeat his intentions. In other words, Jasper believed that the gallant young Frenchman, who commanded the ship of the enemy, would quit his anchorage under the fort at Niagara, and stand up the lake, as soon as the wind abated, in order to ascertain the fate of the Scud, keeping midway between the two shores as the best means of commanding a broad view, and that, on his part, it would be expedient to hug one coast or the other, not only to avoid a meeting, but as affording a chance of passing without detection by blending his sails and spars with objects on the land. He preferred the south because it was the weather shore, and because he thought it was that which the enemy would the least expect him to take, though it necessarily led near his settlements, and in front of one of the strongest posts he held in that part of the world. Of all this, however, Cap was happily ignorant, and the Sergeant's mind was too much occupied with the details of his military trust to enter into these niceties, which so properly belonged to another profession. No opposition was made, therefore, and before morning Jasper had apparently dropped quietly into all his former authority, issuing his orders freely, and meeting with obedience without hesitation or cavil. The appearance of day brought all on board on deck again, and, as is usual with adventurers on the water, the opening horizon was curiously examined, as objects started out of the obscurity, and the panorama brightened under the growing light. East, west, and north nothing was visible but water glittering in the rising sun, but southward stretched the endless belt of woods that then held Ontario in a setting of forest verdure. Suddenly an opening appeared ahead, and then the massive walls of a chateau-looking house, with outworks, bastions, blockhouses, and palisades, frowned on a headland that bordered the outlet of a broad stream. Just as the fort became visible, a little cloud rose over it, and the white ensign of France was seen fluttering from a lofty flagstaff. Cap gave an ejaculation as he witnessed this ungrateful exhibition, and he cast a quick suspicious glance at his brother-in-law. "The dirty tablecloth hung up to air, as my name is Charles Cap," he muttered, "and we hugging this damned shore as if it were our wife and children met on the return from an India voyage. Hark ye, Jasper, are you in search of a cargo of frogs, that you keep so near in to this New France?"
"I hugged the land, sir, in the hope of passing the enemy's ship without being seen, for I think she must be somewhere down here to leeward."
Ay, this sounds well, and I hope it may turn out as you say. I trust there is no undertow here?"
"We are on a weather shore now," said Jasper, smiling; "and I think you will admit, Master Cap, that a strong undertow makes an easy cable. We owe all our lives to the undertow of this very lake."
"French flummery!" growled Cap, though he did not care to be heard by Jasper. "Give me a fair, honest English Yankee American tow, above board, and above water too, if I must have a tow at all, and none of your sneaking drift that is below the surface, where one can neither see nor feel. I dare say, if the truth can be come at, that this late escape of ours was all a contrived affair." "We have now a good opportunity, at least, to reconnoitre the enemy's post at Niagara, brother, for such I take this fort to be," put in the Sergeant. "Let us be all eyes in passing, and remember that we are almost in face of the enemy." This advice of the Sergeant needed nothing to enforce it, for the interest and novelty of passing a spot occupied by human beings were of themselves sufficient to attract deep attention in that scene of a vast but deserted nature. The wind was now fresh enough to urge the Scud through the water with considerable velocity, and Jasper eased her helm as she opened the river, and luffed nearly into the mouth of that noble strait, or river, as it is termed. A dull, distant, heavy roar came down through the opening in the banks, swelling on the currents of the air like the deeper notes of some immense organ, and occasionally seeming to cause the earth itself to tremble. "That sounds like surf on some long unbroken coast!" exclaimed Cap, as a swell deeper than common came to his ears. "Ay, that is some surf as we have in this quarter of the world," Pathfinder answered. "There is no undertow there, Master Cap, but all the water that strikes the rocks stays there, so far as going back again is concerned. That is old Niagara that you hear, or this noble stream tumbling down a mountain. No one will have the impudence to pretend that this fine broad river falls over yonder hills. It does, Master Cap, it does, and all for the want of stairs, or a road to come down by. This is nature, as we have it up here away, though I dare say you beat us down on the ocean. Ah's me, Mabel, a pleasant hour it would be if we could walk on the shore some 10 or 15 miles up this stream, and gaze on all that God has done there."
"You have, then, seen these renowned falls, Pathfinder?" the girls eagerly inquired.
"I have, yes, I have, and an awful sight I witnessed at that same time. The Sarpent and I were out scouting about the garrison there, when he told me that the traditions of his people gave an account of a mighty cataract in this neighborhood, and he asked me to vary from the line of march a little to look at the wonder. I had heard some marvels concerning the spot from the soldiers of the 60th, which is my natural corps, like, and not the 55th, with which I have sojourned so much of late. But there are so many terrible liars in all regiments that I hardly believed half they told me. Well, we went, and though we expected to be led by our ears, and to hear some of that awful roaring that we hear to-day, we were disappointed, for nature was not then speaking in thunder, as she is this morning. Thus it is in the forest, Master Cap, there being moments when God seems to be walking abroad in power, and then again there is a calm over all, as if his spirit lay in quiet along the 'arth. Well, we came suddenly upon the stream, a short distance above the fall, and a young Delaware, who was in our company, found a bark canoe, and he would push it into the current to reach an island that lies in the very centre of the confusion and strife. We told him of his folly, we did, and we reasoned with him on the wickedness of tempting Providence by seeking danger that led to no end,